Welcome to Module 4, Lesson 4, where we will learn about blame and why it limits learning. In the previous lesson, we discussed the situation where you have learning because of a just culture. With a just culture present, then we can tell those context-rich stories, which include the trade-offs, the errors, and the violations, the pressures that those involved were under. This allows us to undertake robust analysis to find the real reason for the incident, not just stopping at human error or rule breaking. This also allows us to develop resilience because we realise that we can't teach everything in a class or write every rule down, which no one would read anyway. So we have learned by trial and error, and it's much better to learn from someone else's mistakes as long as the detail's there. And we're much happier to make mistakes and learn from them if there is a just culture present. So what happens if there isn't a just culture present? What happens now is that those involved will withhold information and only tell the absolute minimum amount possible to get by. They will deflect causality or responsibility to others where possible. You only have to look at the incident report forms for training agency incident reports. This form is being prepared in the event of litigation. How much detail about errors, violations or trade-offs will be present in this report? How many learning opportunities will be missed? Without a detailed report, only a shallow analysis can be conducted. And this means that due to our human nature, we will start filling in the gaps of what we think we should have happened or should be done. We start using those terms called counterfactuals, which tell a story that did not happen. If we don't fill in the gaps and base it purely on the data that's presented, then we often end up with a cause as human error, as it's an easy bucket to drop problems into. Often the outcome from shallow analysis is more rules. And in this case, it's more compliance-based rules because that's the easy way to solve problems and compliance is easy to measure. However, adding more rules rarely improves safety in a discretionary activity like diving. Divers, instructors and operators have to want to follow the rules to improve safety, not because they have to. If they have to, they will not be motivated correctly. Furthermore, if somebody didn't follow 10 rules and you give them 3 more, but still have the same pressures and limited resources, how likely are they to follow them? With more rules, protectionism sets in, with parts of the system operating in silos, i.e. little areas. Equipment manufacturers, training agencies, dive centres, instructors and divers, all looking out for their own liability rather than recognising their interdependence across a system. What this creates is a weak and a fragile system. If resilience is the ability to bend, stretch and recover and grow when things don't go to plan, a fragile system will crack when the parameters are exceeded. In the case of diving, once divers step outside their training, which they believe to cover all they need, and encounter a novel situation, they're more likely to have an accident as they do not have the knowledge or the skills to solve the problems. This isn't just limited to divers, but applies to instructors too, whereby their knowledge base can be based on passing an instructor development course, rather than having to deal with the situations faced in the real world. The ultimate goal would be for a just culture to be present across the globe in diving, but that's unlikely to happen for a variety of reasons, not least the different cultures and also the different legal precedents. However, that doesn't mean that the positive attitudes can't be developed at a much lower level. This could be at a team level, a club level, or an organisational level. As more people become aware and practice these positive concepts, then the learning will improve and the attitudes will slowly change. A just culture doesn't exist in isolation. It also requires a reporting culture that can support the capture, analysis and reporting of such narratives. An informed culture where improvement is the norm, a learning culture that's based on applying changes to what's identified, and a flexible culture which is about changing operations based on the stresses and pressures faced. These are not insignificant cultural shifts. The next lesson is a brief summary covering psychological safety and a just culture, and how they contribute to high-performing teams and learning from unintended outcomes.